Welcome to Vivid English Podcast. Hello, everyone. I am Sarah.
And hello to you all. I am James.
It is so wonderful to see you today. How are things going with you?
Things are going very well, thank you. I am feeling refreshed and ready to chat. It is great to be here with you and with all of our listeners.
I am really excited about our topic today. We are talking about something that almost everyone loves, traveling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, getting on a plane, seeing new cities, trying new food.
Absolutely. Travel is one of the best ways to learn about the world. And of course, probably the best way to practice your English.
That is so true. But we have to be honest that there is a part of traveling that, well, it stresses everyone out and makes people sweat.
Oh, I think I know exactly what you mean. We aren't talking about jet lag, are we?
Haha, no.
Or losing your luggage.
Thankfully not lost luggage. No, I am talking about the end of the meal. That terrifying moment when the waiter brings the bill to the table.
Ah, yes.
Today, we are going to explore the ins and outs of tipping.
The tipping dilemma. It's fascinating how this one small social interaction can cause so much anxiety.
Right.
You know, in one country, paying extra is practically a law. In another, it is actually considered rude.
Exactly. It is a total headache. I remember staring at a bill in a cafe in Rome once. I was holding my wallet and my heart was pounding.
Oh, I've been there.
I was just thinking, I do not know the rules here. I didn't want to be cheap, but I also didn't want to look foolish.
You are definitely not alone in that feeling. It is one of the most common questions we get from students. They ask, do I leave money? How much money? So our goal today is to help.
That is our mission. We want to give our listeners a clear, an actionable guide on how much to tip. Right. And we'll also look at the essential English vocabulary for reading those tricky bills.
And perhaps most importantly, we have to talk about how to handle those modern digital screens. You know, the guilt tip when the screen asks for 20% just for handing you a black coffee.
Oh, those are the worst. I get so nervous. But before we get to the stress of the iPad, let's start with the big picture. Looking at the research, it seems the world is generally divided into 3 specific tipping zones.
That is a great way to visualize it. To make it simple for our listeners, we can map the world into 3 distinct categories.
I like that. Structure helps us remember. So let's start with the first zone. What is it?
The first zone is what I call the high tip zone. This basically includes the United States and Canada.
Okay, the high tip zone. Just the name sounds expensive.
It can be. In the US and Canada, tipping is not really optional. It is.
Yeah.
It's deeply expected. It is part of the social contract of eating out.
I think this is really important to understand. Why is it so strict there? Why is it expected?
It comes down to the economic structure of the restaurant industry in North America. In these countries, the servers, the people bringing you your food, are often paid what is called a tipped minimum wage.
Tipped minimum wage. That implies it is lower than the regular minimum wage.
Exactly. It is significantly lower. In some U.S. states, a waiter might only earn $2 or $3 an hour from the restaurant itself.
Wow.
The expectation is that this customer you will make up the rest of their salary through tips.
I see. That makes sense now. So when you are sitting in a diner in New York, you aren't just a customer. In a way, you are also the employer paying their wages directly.
That is a perfect way to put it. That is why not tipping is seen as very aggressive. If you don't tip, the waiter might not make enough money to pay their rent. I mean, it is that serious.
So we know we have to pay. But inflation has changed things recently. What is the standard number we should have in our heads for 2026?
The standard has definitely crept up.
Yeah.
In 2026, within the high tip zone, the standard for good service is between 18% and 22%.
Wow. 18 to 22%. That is a significant amount of money to add on top of the menu price.
It is. If your dinner costs $100, you should be prepared to leave about $20 extra. 15% used to be the standard, but now 15% is considered on the low side, perhaps for service that was just okay.
Okay, good to know. So, if you are visiting New York, Toronto, or Vancouver, budget an extra 20% for your meals. Now let's move to the second zone. What do we have?
Next, we have the Roundup Zone. This covers most of Europe, the UK, and Australia.
The roundup zone. I like the sound of that. It sounds much more relaxed.
It is much more relaxed. In places like London, Paris, or Sydney, tipping is appreciated. It is a nice gesture, but it is not mandatory in the same survival way it is in America.
Because the staff are paid a full wage, right?
Correct. In Australia or France, servers earn a decent hourly wage. They don't rely on your tip to survive. So the tip is truly a bonus for a job well done.
So if I am in London having tea, I don't need to get my calculator out and find 20%.
No, please don't. That would be considered incredibly generous, perhaps even surprisingly so. The most common action in this zone is to simply round up the bill.
Can you walk us through an example of how rounding up works in practice?
Sure. Let's say you have a nice lunch in Berlin. The bill comes to, let's say, 27 euros. You would likely just give a 30 euro note and say, that's fine.
So you are just rounding up to the nearest convenient number. You paid 3 euros extra.
Exactly. You are rounding up to the nearest nice number. It is easy, it is polite, and it shows appreciation.
That is so much simpler and less math.
Much less math. Or if the service was truly excellent, maybe they gave you a great wine recommendation, you might leave a small percentage, like 5% or 10%. But there is no pressure.
Okay, so we have the high tip zone where we pay 20% and the roundup zone where we just add a little bit. What is the third one?
The third one is the non-tipping zone. This includes countries like Japan and South Korea.
The non-tipping zone, does that mean I save money?
In a way, yes, but it is more about the culture. In these cultures, good service is considered an intrinsic part of the job. They take pride in doing it well without the incentive of extra money.
This is the one that confuses Western travelers the most. If I leave money on the table in Japan just to be nice, what happens?
It can actually be seen as confusing. Sometimes it can even be considered rude or insulting.
Rude? Really? Why would giving someone money be rude?
Because it implies that their employer is not paying them enough, or it treats the transaction like charity. It disrupts the balance.
I see.
In the non-tipping zone, the price on the menu is exactly what you pay, not a penny more.
That is very clear. No math required.
Exactly. No math at all. It is actually very refreshing once you get used to it.
Okay, so now we have our geography sorted. But sometimes the confusion isn't about the culture. It is about the English words on the paper.
You are absolutely right. English receipts can be full of tricky vocabulary. Even for native speakers, it can be confusing.
Yeah.
Let's look at some important words our listeners will see.
The first word that confuses people, especially on fancy hotel bills or upscale restaurants, is gratuity.
Ah, yes. Gratuity. Let's spell that. Gratuity.
It sounds so formal. What does that actually mean?
It is just the formal legal word for tip.
Oh, that's it.
That's it. If you see the line on the receipt that says add gratuity, it is just asking you to add the tip for the server.
Okay, so gratuity equals tip. Got it. Now, here is the one that tricks everyone. Service charge.
This is a crucial distinction. A service charge is not a voluntary tip. It is a mandatory fee that the restaurant adds to the bill automatically.
Oh, so I don't have a choice.
Usually, no. This often happens if you are dining with a large group of people. For example, if you have a table of 6 or 8 people, the menu might say in small print, an 18% service charge will be added to parties of 6 or more.
That is really important to check because if I see a service charge on my bill, do I still need to leave a tip on top of that?
Generally, no. That is the key.
Hmm,
If the service charge is there, the restaurant has already calculated the tip for you. You do not need to add more money. The tip is already included.
that is a relief. I don't want to pay twice. I have definitely done that before by accident.
We all have. You have to check the bill carefully. Sometimes you'll see the phrase service included.
Or if you are traveling in France, or perhaps in a fancy bistro that uses French terms on the menu, you might see service compris.
Yes. Service comprise means the same thing. Service included. Put your wallet away, you are done.
I have another phrase I want to teach our listeners. It is very useful when paying with cash, perhaps in a taxi or a bar. It is keep the change.
Oh, that is a classic. Keep the change. It makes you sound very fluent.
When exactly do we use this?
Let's say your coffee costs $4.50. You hand the barista a $5 bill. The change would be 50 cents.
But maybe I don't want the coins jingling in my pocket, or I just want to be nice.
Right. You just want to leave the 50 cents as a tip. You hand over the $5 bill and simply say, keep the change.
It is such a smooth and polite way to handle it. You don't have to say, I would like to give you the remaining money as a gratuity. You just say, keep the change.
Precisely. It signals the transaction is over and they can keep the difference.
Okay. We have covered the zones and the vocabulary. Now we have to talk about the stress of 2026. The thing that makes my palms sweat.
I think I know what is coming.
The spinning iPad.
Haha. Yes. The digital tip screen. It is everywhere now. Coffee shops, bakeries, ice cream stands, even convenience stores.
Listeners, imagine this scenario. You walk into a coffee shop, you order a simple blueberry muffin. It costs $5. The person behind the counter grabs a muffin with tongs, puts it in a bag, and then spins the iPad screen around to you.
And suddenly you are staring at options.
Yeah.
20%, 25%, 30%. And the person is standing right there watching you.
It feels like so much pressure. I always feel guilty if I don't press a button. It feels like they're judging me. What is the rule here? Do we have to tip for a muffin?
This is what we call digital tip pressure.
Yeah.
And the good news is there is a way to handle it without guilt. Here's the advice for 2026. You have to ask yourself one question. Is this counter service?
Can you define counter service for us?
Counter service is when you stand up to order at a register and you carry your own food to the table. Or you just take it to go.
So you do the work.
You are doing the serving work yourself.
Okay. So at a coffee shop or a fast food burger place, that is usually counter service.
Correct. The rule is Tipping is optional for counter service.
Really, even if the screen asks for it.
Even if the screen asks, the software is just designed to ask everyone, regardless of what you bought. Do not feel guilty about clicking no tip or custom tip if the transaction was just a quick purchase.
That makes me feel so much better. I always thought they would be angry with me.
It won't be.
No.
If you just bought a muffin and walked away, you did not receive table service. You didn't have someone refilling your water or checking on your meal. So a big tip is not necessary.
Okay, I will be brave next time.
Now, if you order a complex latte that takes 5 minutes to make, maybe throw in $1. But for a muffin, no guilt.
Now, we have mostly talked about eating and drinking, but in the high tip zone, especially in the US, money changes hands in other places too. It's not just about food.
That is very true. The tipping ecosystem goes way beyond restaurants. Let's talk about hotels.
Yes. When I arrive at a hotel, especially a nice one, sometimes a person in a uniform helps me with my bags. The bellhop.
Right. If a bellhop carries your heavy bags out of the taxi and up to your room, it is standard to give them a tip. They are saving your back from doing the work.
How much should we give in that situation?
Usually $2 to $5 is standard in the US. It depends on how many bags you have.
Ah,
If
okay.
you have 5 huge suitcases, you should definitely tip on the higher end.
And what about the housekeeping staff, the people who clean the room every day?
This is one that people often forget because you don't usually see the housekeeping staff, but they have one of the hardest jobs in the hotel. Is very kind and recommended to leave a few dollars on the pillow or the desk.
Again, is $2 to $5 per night appropriate?
Yes, exactly. And a pro tip, leave it daily. Different people might clean your room on different days, so leaving it daily ensures the person who did the work gets the money.
That is a nice way to say thank you for a clean room. Now, what about getting around? Transportation.
In 2026, most people use apps like Uber or Lyft, or they take a traditional taxi.
Is tipping expected there?
Yes, it is common. Usually 10% to 15% is standard on these apps. The good thing is that the app handles the math for you.
Right. After the ride, the app usually gives you a pop-up notification asking if you want rate the driver and leave a tip.
That is easy enough. Just click the button. If the driver helped you with luggage or was very friendly, you might give a little more.
And there's one more category I want to touch on because it is very popular with travelers. Tour guides.
Oh, I love taking tours, especially those free walking tours you see in big cities like Prague or Buenos Aires.
Ah, yes, the free walking tours. Listeners, you need to know a secret about these. This is a bit of a trick.
It is.
The tour itself is free to join. You don't buy a ticket, but the guide earns their living almost entirely from tips at the end.
So it is not really free.
Well, technically, yes, but socially, no. You pay what you think it was worth. If the guide was entertaining and informative for 2 hours, a cash tip at the end is highly recommended.
That makes sense. They work hard walking backwards and talking for 2 hours.
They certainly do. And they often have to pay a fee to the tour company for every person who shows up. So if you don't tip, they might actually lose money.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Definitely tip your tour guides. Are there any changes happening now? Is the system changing at all?
Actually, yes. There is a cultural nuance happening in 2026. We are seeing a service-inclusive trend, even in the US. Some restaurants are trying to ban tipping effectively. They want to pay their staff a fair, high wage, a professional salary without relying on customers to add extra money.
That sounds great. It makes it more like the European model. But how do I know if I am in one of those restaurants?
You have to check the menu, look for a note at the bottom. It might say, "We are a non-tipping establishment," or "hospitality included."
So we really have to read the fine print.
Yes, observation is key. But what if a listener is still confused? What if they're sitting there and they just don't know?
That is a great point. Listeners, if you are unsure, please just ask. It is not rude to ask about the rules.
It is perfectly okay to ask questions. You are learning, and locals appreciate that you care enough to ask.
Here are 3 specific questions you can use. Let's practice them so our listeners can hear the intonation.
Good idea. Question number 1 is direct. Is service included in the bill?
That is very clear. Is service included in the bill? That solves the service charge mystery immediately.
Question number 2 helps you understand the culture. Do people usually leave a tip here?
I like that one. It asks about the local custom. Do people usually leave a tip here? It puts the focus on what people do so it feels less personal.
And question number 3, for when you want to pay but don't have cash, can I add the gratuity to my credit card payment?
Very useful. Can I add the gratuity to my credit card payment? Sometimes you can't, and you need to find an ATM.
Exactly. These questions will save you a lot of stress.
Definitely. And finally, sometimes people feel awkward about how to give the money. Do I hand it to the waiter? Do I wave it in the air like I'm calling a taxi?
Uh-huh. Please do not wave money in the air.
No. In some cultures, handing cash directly to a person can be a little awkward or too direct. It can feel like a bribe.
So what is the polite way to do it?
The best way to leave a tip discreetly is to leave it on the table.
Just leave it there.
Yes. If the bill came in a small leather folder or on a small tray, put the cash inside that folder. It keeps it hidden and safe.
And if there is no folder,
Just tuck the money under the edge of a plate or a salt shaker so it doesn't blow away. Then you could simply walk away.
that feels very smooth. No awkward handshakes needed. You just leave the thanks on the table.
Exactly.
Well, this has been so helpful. I feel like I can travel without panic now.
I am glad to hear that. Talking about this reminds me of a funny story regarding the non-tipping zone. Well, a few years ago, I was traveling in Tokyo. I knew about the non-tipping zone, but I forgot. Had such a delicious meal ramen, I think. And I wanted to be nice.
Uh-oh. I think I know where this is going. Old habits die hard.
They do. Left a huge tip on the table, maybe 20%, and walked out of the restaurant. I was feeling very proud of myself. I am such a generous tourist, I thought. They will be so happy.
And then what happened?
I walked about 2 blocks down the street. Suddenly, I heard shouting behind me. I turned around, and the waiter was running, sprinting towards me. He was wearing his apron and everything.
Oh no.
He was completely out of breath. He handed me the money back. He bowed deeply and said, "Sir, you forgot your money on the table."
Ha ha. He thought you made a mistake.
He did. He thought I had accidentally left my cash behind. He chased me down the street to return it. I felt so embarrassed, but also amazed by his honesty. He didn't want my charity. He just wanted to return what he thought was mine.
That is a wonderful story. It really shows how different cultures can be. In New York, they might chase you if you didn't leave money. In Tokyo, they chase you if you did.
It does. It taught me a valuable lesson.
Hmm.
Generosity means different things in different places.
So, what is the final takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the golden rule is this: when in doubt, observe the locals. Look at what other people are doing at the tables next to you. Or just use the questions we practiced.
That is great advice.
And remember, even if you get the money wrong, a smile and a sincere thank you are universal. Everyone understands kindness, even if the math is a little off.
Absolutely. Don't let the stress of the bill ruin your beautiful travel experience.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our guide today.
It does. I hope you all feel more confident about tipping, whether you were in New York, Paris, or Tokyo.
It was a pleasure exploring this topic with you all.
Before we go, we have a small favor to ask. We love making these episodes for you, and we want to keep helping you learn.
Yes, please don't forget to subscribe and come back to the Vivid English podcast. It helps us a lot.
We have so many more exciting topics coming up to help you master English.
Be sure to tune in to Vivid English Podcast next time.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.